Bethesda have done it again. They seemingly just can't not tick people off, doubly so when it comes to their business practices. This time it's for Wolfenstein Youngblood, a rather strange game that's already been met with a little bit of confusion given what we know about its business model. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Industry Report, the near daily show where we go deeper into the headlines. Today we are taking a break from the usual E3 reporting. Why? Well, Bethesda really don't seem to be shying away from pushing their business models darn hard. Fallout 76, of course, launched with its absurdly expensive atomic shop, went on to have controversies like the inflated sale percentages via an exaggerated RRP in the winter bundle, which is something that I believe is illegal in the EU. Then they did more things past that. They added in new skins, but gave people a stat boost when their whole party was wearing them. Then they, worst of all, added the time saver microtransaction repair kits. That's an example of them walking back in their previous stances of cosmetics being the only type of Fallout 76 microtransaction. And since it's all Bethesda, well, before we hit Wolfenstein, there is actually a meaningful update to that 76 story that does tie into the Wolfenstein one. Bethesda recently decided to, well, try to defend the repair kits. Their defense was quite terrible, as expected. Here's what Jeff Gardner said about it. "We believed the repair kits were a convenience item for people who didn't want to grind for adhesive or other things, and that it was just a way for them to basically shortcut game systems, definitely not pay to win." A way to shortcut game systems? I mean, come on man, if players need to feel like they have to shortcut your game systems, you've designed bad game systems. That seems like partially a admission on your part, because if there's a problem there, why not patch it? Why not add in an option for that to not be as punishing? Well, the answer is pretty clear. Why do that when you can just sell the solution instead? And bear in mind, Jeff talks about people, about it being stuff that people don't want to grind for. Well, if he really thought that, Bethesda recently made that grind, well not recently, way back in January, significantly worse by greatly reducing the armor durability reduction perk. So that's really darn fishy. He went on to say, "I will argue with anyone that repair kits make you win at the game. First of all, you're not really competing with anyone except for in PvP mode. We have all the information, how often people repair, what they repair, and again, you can repair in the game. It's simply just a strict convenience thing. That's my take on repair kits." Well, Jeff, yeah, it's not primarily a PvP game, so what is winning in your game? Well, it's progressing your character and furthering your goals. That time saver accelerates your progress by removing grind. A grind that your company made worse through balance updates. So, I mean, yes, PvP pay to win is more egregious, but being PvE, that is not a get out of jail free card, especially when it's multiplayer. And expect to only see more of this as time goes on. And of course, time savers, that's what we're talking about here, and well, that's what we have to talk about with Wolfenstein Youngblood. Now, for context, Youngblood is a smaller entry to the Wolfenstein series, more akin to the scope of the Old Blood, so smaller than New Order and New Colossus, which are the main games, and it actually comes in at a lower price tag of $24.99, with the deluxe version being $34.99, I believe, and interestingly, with distribution, the game is only sold physically as a collector's edition in certain territories. Now, what's different about this game is the format and the monetization. It's a co-op shooter where you play as BJ's daughters, both on a mission together to rescue him from something in Paris. Now, originally it was a more traditional expand-alone, but they ended up adding in the cooperative stuff as the default, like just as the design of the game later on, so both sisters, as well as getting development help from Arcane Studios. I'll tinfoil hat on a bit of that one later on. Anyway, we recently knew that the game would have cosmetics that are purchased with currency. That currency can be earned both through gameplay and just purchased outright with real money. And really looking through it, the game does seem to have I suppose a sort of odd setup that's a little bit more gamey, where it's less of a linear narrative. You can play missions in any order from the get-go, which just makes me think that they really are going for co-op replayability as a pillar of this game. Now, I don't like the cosmetic stuff whatsoever in this game anyway. I think those cosmetics should be an element of reward in the game's mastery loop, but this time it unfortunately does get worse. The game, of course, has many weapons, and those have upgrades and attachments. These are unlocked by collecting coins from the game's levels, or by just purchasing gold bars from the in-game store with real money, which, you can then use to shortcut the game's upgrade system by just buying them all outright. This is a problem for a surprisingly large number of reasons in a game like this. So first, game design. You see, in a game like this, the progression of mechanical unlocks, when done well, is tied into the design of the levels. Getting a new gun or attachment, that's usually a highlight moment of the game, one that will tie into perhaps the enemy types that you just faced, or the enemy types that you're about to face in the next level. Now, I would argue that having these just be a skill upgrade tree combined with non-linear level selection, regardless of the progression stuff or even the monetization, I'd actually argue that does water down the game's design a bit anyway, but it is a lot more egregious when it is included with microtransactions. Now, these won't just be a break in the game's design from a balancing perspective, they'll break elements of it mechanically, in my view. If a game is being designed well, then each combat section is tightly designed around the player's toolkit. If that toolkit can be anything for any level, seemingly with any level of upgrade or power, then that is going to result in a game experience that, as I said, is a little bit watered down. And what do I mean by that? Well, glimpses of excellence may still remain, but it does severely limit the designer's ability to create a tightly tuned encounter that is highly specified around your current toolkit, something that often results in, the game's most memorable sequences. Now, here's what Andreas, a senior game designer at Machine Games, had to say about it. I've been playing through the game at work for the last 2 weeks, and I haven't done any microtransactions. You don't really need to, but they are there if you want to speed things up. But I've never felt the need to do that. When I play the game, it doesn't even cross my mind. So first of all, I'd say that what he said there doesn't really get around the design concerns that I brought up and just how it impacts the rest of the game. And the matter of perspectives is just interesting and relevant here. Andreas is playing this for free as a part of his job in testing the game. He's going to be interfacing with the game in a way entirely different to the customer who has to pay for it. So him feeling the need to do that, first of all, he has a different perspective, and second, it's just his opinion. And at the end of the day, they are banking on enough people feeling pushed towards those microtransactions that they do it. If they purely just wanted to give people the option for a faster experience, why not have an alternative difficulty mode? Or maybe, like in the past, a cheat code that unlocks all the weapons and attachments for you. Something, if you ever played GTA, that was a norm. That used to be just something that would happen in just about all games with a cheat code. And indeed, when you used a cheat code like that, it would often reveal how the design of a level is just not suited to a player that has the complete menu of a game's mechanical options. So, simply put, this, I believe, is damaging to the design of the game in the name of gameplay, impacting microtransactions where in a co-op run, if one player buys all the guns, they'll simply be more powerful than the other player. Now, sure, they say it's balanced, but incentives do exist for them to emphasize the grind. Indeed, look at Shadow of War. The developer said that was a game with balanced microtransactions where it was all optional, but just look how that game turned out, with an insane grind towards the end. A grind so bad that it greatly damaged the game's reputation, really damaged its sales, and then led to the developers having to, way later on, actually patch out the microtransactions and rebalance the game. Now look, the reason why I do this video is because this stuff matters, and it's getting more ubiquitous. More than ever, we're just seeing this appear in traditional campaign-based games. Back when Dead Space 3 did this, we all just thought it was clean absurd and really stupid and wouldn't work, but seemingly now, the apathy has set in. And people just let it happen. And I mentioned tinfoil, so let's get into it. Selling skins in a first-person shooter that's single-player, that does not make much sense. Bar having some nice sleeves for your character, they're not going to do much. They won't be seen by other people. Well, in a co-op game, that creates the social incentives for that type of monetization and customization to all just have a higher conversion rate. Now, I can't say that this is why the game was made co-op, right? After all, co-op is generally just a great format, but I think it's hard to ignore given the caliber of publisher that we're dealing with here, and indeed, we do just see more and more games becoming multiplayer live services with loads of cosmetics, like that's happening for a reason. So look, Bethesda are pretty darn scummy. I outlined what happened with 76. We then, of course, had the cosmetic stores added to Skyrim and Fallout 4 post-launch with the Creation Club, so you can be darn sure that TES 6 and Starfield will end up having something similar, and with what we've seen in 76 and this now, it just seems like even time savers are on the table for all of their games. Now, okay, Doom Eternal back in 2016 did say that they had, there's hack modules which are the upgrade consumable, but that they're not a microtransaction. Hopefully their tweet stays true there, but with new titles, it's given everything that we know, right? And how that studio seems, or that, not studio, that publisher seems to be moving. Now, to be fair to them, I should also cover one good bit of information, and that is that Arcane have been helping out with the design of this game. Now, if anything, Arcane are masters of level design, and if there's one thing to complain about with New Colossus, it's level design. Machine Games said this about Arcane's involvement: when it comes to level design, Arcane has shown us the way how to do it. We have learned a ton from Arcane in this. And you know what, I will say this, that does make me hopeful that this will actually be a better game than the previous installment. So it's worth saying that, but still, as I said, I'm very concerned about how the business model could impact the design of this game and also future games in general. Both, all of the future games, but specifically, I would say, the future games from Bethesda, the publisher, which of course does blanket in Bethesda Game Studios, which is Todd Howard and co. So there you go. Let me know what you think. I think it's important to bring these things to light. I know it gets tiresome and repetitive, and it just feels like so many of us just droning on and on and on about the same topic, but you know what? I think it is important to just keep the spotlight on them, because if we all just sort of roll over, this is just going to be the norm, and it's just going to get worse. So, thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell button, and with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.